Hello and welcome to Success Interviews. These are where I chat to fellow female business owners and freelancers to find out more about why they started their businesses and how they measure success. And today I'm joined by Abbi, who's a freelance event content producer and event producer. I think I've got that right.
Yeah.
Who I've been connected with on LinkedIn for a while. Abbi, I'm sure people would love to know more about you, what you do, and why you went freelance in the first place.
Yeah, so I'm Abby. I am in my 40s. I live in Milton Keynes. I'm an event producer. I've been working in events since I was at school. Basically, I helped do the school plays, all that kind of stuff. I worked in a hotel where we did weddings and parties and things, a country hotel near my house in my teens. And then when I left school, I moved away to study, not at uni, and carried on. I did club night promotion and started DJing. And then eventually I moved to London thinking it'd be really easy to get an event job. Apparently everyone wanted to work at events.
Yeah.
So I was applying and applying to every tiny little, like horrendously paid job that there was and not getting anywhere. And I finally phoned someone. It's like, I've applied for the job with you and I just wanted some feedback because I haven't heard anything. And they just said to me, have you got a degree? I said, no. And they said that they were getting so many CVs coming in that they had to start filtering somehow. And I realised that without a degree, I wasn't going to get a job. Even if it was just a crappy one, I wasn't going to get it. There was too much competition. So I went and did an event degree. And at the time, it was like 2003. It was the very first year that event degrees existed in the UK. And I did it in a combined honours with music business because I'd had a music background. And basically, no one in the event industry at the time gave a monkeys about this degree. I would go around trade shows, giving my CV, saying I was a student, and they would just laugh in the face of it. Now there are graduate programs everywhere. It's a really good degree. At the time, I don't think it included what it should have done. And it was a lot of leisure and tourism stuff based on hypothetical Olympics, which we didn't know were going to happen with us. Yeah, it was in jail. So it didn't really massively prepare me for event life, but I knew that I slogged through it and knew it's what I wanted to do. But then again, I couldn't get an events job in an event agency, even with my degree afterwards. I got a job as a entertainment agent. So spent 5 years working for a company that started me and my boss in a very small office in Finchley, just the two of us. And by the time I left a few years later, there was 7 of us in the office, and we were doing like hundreds of events all over the world. So that was a pretty cool thing. So yeah, so entertainment, and then I went from there into production because I was doing more and more of going out with the performers to events because we were doing bigger and bigger shows, and I was having to like program them and decide who was going to be on and then stage manage. And I just loved being on site and loved actually seeing the event happen and not just sitting in the office booking people in for stuff. So I got into production then, and have carried on ever since. The reason that I freelance is an interesting one because the reason's changed over the years. I've been freelancing since 2016. I started my first production job, I think, in 2010, around that time. And I worked full time in a big agency. We did events Oh no, it was 2012 because it was for the Olympic year. We did loads of events for the government, loads of Olympics related stuff. I did events with Red Bull and Puma and loads of big brands that at the age I was then in my 20s were just like the absolute nuts. I was just so excited to be there and be involved. But I soon came to realise that, and it wasn't just that agency, it was many agencies, but I was being overworked, underpaid, and I was struggling. I was struggling with burnout. I was struggling with working in a big office where there were too many of us for the building, and they should have been in a bigger building at that point. It was too noisy. We were crammed in elbow to elbow. It was fun. And I learned an awful lot by being thrown in at the deep end and swimming really well, getting on with it. But it just got a bit much. And so I started after 2 years there. I felt I sort of deserved a promotion and stuff, and I wasn't getting even like reviews. So I started looking for a job elsewhere. And it was really hard. I went for a lot of interviews and would get through to like the last two, got through, I think 3 in a row. I got through to like the last 2 people and then wasn't the one that was chosen. So I just ended up staying at the same agency for another 2 years because I couldn't do the emotional turmoil of constant job hunting. And after 4 years, I'd had enough and I went through it again. And again, 3 jobs in a row where I got to the last one. I was walking to one event agency to go and sign my contracts. And they called me when I was almost at the front door to tell me that they changed their mind. And I was just devastated. I'd really had enough. But then I did get another job and I was just like, hooray, started working at this other agency and they made all of us redundant after 3 months of me being there.
Oh,
And I just couldn't, I just could, I can't even think about it now. I couldn't go back into looking for jobs again. It was awful. So I just thought, you know, what are the other options? And freelancing was it. And it was very terrifying at the time because it wasn't something I'd thought of doing. I wasn't prepared for it. But I did it anyway. I was just like,
oh.
it's got to be easier to go and get interviews for just like a job instead of like a career. So I did that, and that's how I got into freelancing. So it was necessity and emotional turmoil the first time around. That's why I started. A couple of years in, I had worked at quite a few different agencies and realised that the problems were not just with the agency I was originally with. There is a culture in events of overwork, underpay if they can get away with it. Like nobody talked about their rates, nobody talked about what they were getting paid. There is no standard job title or pay bracket from agency to agency for jobs. So if you tell them what you were earning, they'll offer you a tiny bit more at the next job, and that's it. It was really, it might have changed since then. I don't work full time anymore, so I wouldn't know. And I decided to start my own agency because I wanted to put my money where my mouth was. Sorry, my phone just went off. Put my money where my mouth was and create an agency that worked how I wished agencies worked. And with the best of intentions, I started an agency, but one person alone cannot run an agency that big, and I needed to be doing it with other people. But I was in my early 30s, mid 30s, and everybody else that I knew was buying houses, having babies, getting married, and they did not want to leave their cushy existence that they had and risk money and all the rest of it, which I totally understood. But that left me sort of on my own. And I fast came to realise that whilst I did really well with word of mouth work for the first 2 years. And then when those contracts that I'd done repeatedly had to go back out to tender again, and I didn't get them, I realised I don't like schmoozing. I don't like marketing. I know how to do it all, but I hate it so much that I don't bother. And so slowly but surely I was taking freelance work anyway, and realised that I read a book that a friend suggested to me, because I'm a bit of a workaholic, and it's called The Underachiever's Manifesto. And I read this book and it sits in my downstairs toilet for anyone else who ever wants to read it. And the general gist was, who are you trying to impress? Like, what are you doing all of this for? What's your motivation? Who cares if you are a bin man or a dentist or a doctor or a teacher? Who does it bother? Who matters? And I was like, well, I'm the only one that really matters. Like, it's nice for your parents to be proud of you, but I'm a full-grown 35-year-old adult at this point. And I just sat there and I realized, like, I have always been looking for the next thing. And actually, the next thing isn't even what I want. I've just been doing it because everyone else, there's a trajectory and you just keep going to be the best that you can.
Yeah.
And the best that I can be is an event producer. If I go up a level, it's doing a job I don't enjoy, I don't like, and it may be more money and it may be a bit more status, but I don't enjoy the job. And therefore I wouldn't be good at it and I wouldn't be being true to myself. So I wouldn't say I'm settling. I'm like the best of the best event producers. But I love what it is that I do, and I love it more now that I've stopped trying to compare myself to everybody that's like above me, because I realize I don't want their jobs. And that's why I freelance now, is because I don't want to be chasing up the ladder. I just want to pick the jobs and the clients and the agencies that I like working with. I turn down work. I've turned down more work in the last 6 months, and not because there's so much of it coming in, but because I'm being more fussy now. I'm like, I don't want to work with that industry because it doesn't, like, I don't want, there was jobs that came in for like oil and gas industry, doesn't fit with my ethics and my save the planet attitude. So I said no. There's others where I've moved out of London because during the pandemic, events vanished. And we have come back in full force, but with no need to go into offices. I still work from home as a freelancer. So a lot of the big agencies now have hybrid working, and they don't have massive offices anymore. They have people coming in odd days of the week. So I moved out of London, and now I've turned down 2 jobs in the last 2 weeks because they're asking me to go in more than like 3 or more days a week in London. And I'm like, I know I can get paid exactly the same and not have to pay commuting fees like from my house. So I just said no. And I don't know what's going to come in. It's always a bit, there are times when it's a bit butt squeaky in terms of like, where's the next job coming from? But they always come. So yeah.
I absolutely love that you've done this, and you come across as such a happy, positive person, but obviously you've had that experience of burnout, but you've been able to create something that works perfectly for you and the life that you want. And you've decided that actually this is what I want for me. And it's interesting, my husband and I, when we had our eldest, who's 15 now, we talked about his teacher and whether he would go into senior management. And he said, if I do that, I won't be home for bath and bedtime. And I want to be home for bath and bedtime. I want to have tea as a family. And so he made the choice at that point that he was never going to go and chase after any senior management roles. He was just going to be a teacher. And we're really happy with that. And but people go, well, do you not want the next thing? Do you not want to go up the career ladder? And he's like, no, I want to be with my family. I want that time with family. And I think being able to be really confident in making that decision like you've done of, I don't want to do this. I want to be an event producer and the best I can be is so important.
I think that the biggest thing as well, the biggest wake up call for me was my burnout was bad. When the pandemic hit and I had an enforced what I thought was only going to be 3 months, I was like, right, I'm not going to worry about money or work. I've got enough in the bank for like 3 months. This will all be fine. And I switched my alarm clocks off. Discovered I sleep 9 to 10 hours a night when I don't have an alarm clock. Ridiculous amount of sleep. I got into exercise. I picked up my guitar. I learned via YouTube to upholster a chair. Like it's the first time I'd had hobbies. Like I was, and if anyone asked me, tell me about you, I'm an event producer. First thing that came out of my mouth. And now I'm like, actually, I'm a kind, creative person with a lot of drive and all the rest of it. And for a job, I'm an event producer. When events came back on, I immediately, just because I then had to spend like a year with absolutely no money, and I retrained to do other things, which I have now that I'm freelance. I do pick up and put down every now and again random things. I trained to be a birth doula, and I trained to be a wedding celebrant, and I've only done each of those jobs once, like but I've really enjoyed them. And now that I know that if I get burnt out, there's other things I can do. That's also just made events like better, because I'm here because I want to be, not because I don't have options. So that's good. But
that's brilliant.
I got diagnosed with ADHD a year and a bit ago.
Okay.
And that again was the result of just burnout and wondering like what there was I could do to change things, and realizing I didn't want to change my job. Something else had to give. So went on a whole mental health journey and really sort of looked at what it is I need, which is to go to the gym in the middle of the day, which I can't do when I'm working in an agency, and just making time for myself and all that's like, I am more important than my job.
Absolutely, 100%. So my next question for you, Abbi, is how do you measure success?
I used to measure success in terms of money and status. And I do still feel, obviously, it's really nice to earn more money. When I get big money jobs or long contracts, wonderful. But I do also now weigh them up with my mental health and happiness. So I think when I was younger, I think everyone when they're younger, the important things are to get up the career ladder, to be the best that you can be, to earn as much money as you possibly can, and to have the respect of your peers and be recognised for what you do. And do still value those things, but they are by far not the most important. Now it's happiness, my mental health, and that I feel sort of fulfilled in my work, which I don't all the time because I'm still a bit of a workaholic, and I therefore find that I'm what's it, at nose to the grindstone, just like churning work out. But every now and again, I'll get a project that I actually really am emotionally connected to and really proud of. And yeah, those jobs are great. And more of those would be great.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
love that. I think it's true, isn't it, that as we get older, we realise that actually money is always important. So my last question for you today, Abby, and you may have more than one of these, is what tip would you give to your younger self?
Um, I actually struggle with things like this because there's lots of things that I would love to my younger self to have avoided happening, but at the same time, I wouldn't be where I am without them happening. So I don't know that I have a whole lot of advice. I'd probably just let it all happen. But I think no is a word that's okay to use. Just in general life, I don't think a lot of people are just scared. You don't have to people please, and that your work is not your worth.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that. I think they're brilliant tips to have. And I agree with you, and often I ask that question to people and it is, well, do you actually regret anything? I think I've always said, don't regret anything because everything that's happened to you, every choice you've made has led you to where you are today. And if you're happy today, then
yeah,
those things, you can't regret them because you wouldn't be where you are now without those things having happened.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they all things bad and good, they all shape you and make you more resilient. And what is it? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all life experience, and it helps you be very empathetic and sympathetic to other people and understand where other people are coming from as well. So yeah, just
Yeah,
think,
absolutely.
throw yourself into it all.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to talk to you and meet you face to face as well. I hope that people have been inspired by Abby's interview and her story today, and I hope you'll join me to watch another success interview soon. Bye for now.